Juventus docked 15 points. It's not the first time they've been docked points heavily. But what do you make of that? That's crazy. That's obviously made the top four picture in Serie A look wide open, and Roma look really positive at the back of this now.
Yeah.
But Juventus, what's going on there?
It's a mess, and I wonder if they're quietly okay with it for this year in a weird way. It's brought around a lot of change at the top. Obviously, we've seen a lot of people leave. Nedved, Agnelli. It's a big change. Paratici at Tottenham obviously is involved as well somehow. So there's still a lot to come out about exactly what's happened with this financial irregularity. But 15 points this season when they're not competing for the title, and next season they'll probably get rid of Allegri and have Conte back. I think they'd rather see that happen now than next year. It's weird
Crazy.
because they had started to have a bit of an upturn in form until that Napoli game. They were winning games quite quietly, like 1-0, 2-0. Chiesa had come back, and they did shoot right back up the table. And I think they were a point off second before this deduction. Now, all of a sudden, they're completely out of the picture. The club's an absolute mess, and it has been for a long time. We knew this was going to happen. Look at the money that they splashed on bringing Ronaldo in, De Ligt in. They've just not recouped any of that. And instead, they just keep signing players. When was the last time? I know Juve sold De Ligt in the summer, but at a loss. Like they just they don't seem to have any proper strategy, and it's always going to be there to bite them. And they're so stubborn with their structure that they'll happily watch themselves coast to a 6th, 7th finish this season.
Did you take Pogba on loan at Villa?
Well, I think United would take him on loan right now, wouldn't they, for a bit of depth in midfield?
No.
He said he
dressing room's good. Let's leave that.
Do you know what? There's a few players though that are supposedly available, and one of them that Villa have been looking at is Weston McKennie. I'd take that 100%. If I was a young player at Juventus right now, I think I'd be looking for a way out. It's inevitable that Conte will be there next season. I'm very confident of that, and I just don't really know how Juventus improve on this situation because Napoli keep getting stronger. They'll probably sell in the summer. You would probably see Osimhen leave. Kvaratskhelia will probably leave. But then I'd trust Napoli with that money more than I'd trust Juventus with that money. Roma are quietly building something in. The Milan clubs look a lot stronger again. Lazio is still in the picture. It would be really easy for this team that won 9 titles in a row to kind of fade into nothingness and be about 6th for a while. Who knows? It's worrying because that Juve squad's not great.
Doesn't it make you realise, Dave, how obvious it is now that these clubs are so desperate for a European Super League? Juventus were one of the biggest cheerleaders, weren't they? It makes sense now.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense, doesn't it? The mess that they're in, and it's it's especially everything that's come out. And let's be honest, they're not, definitely in the past they've obviously had their problems as well. We obviously got relegated, didn't they? So it just makes you worry, really, what is kind of under the surface. How ugly has it got? And it's definitely worrying times, and something you just don't want to see, isn't it? It's just the worst about when things like this come out. It's just the worst news for football fans, and it's got a really bitter taste to it.
The difficult thing for Juve as well is if they want to recoup any cash, how many sellable assets have they really got that they could get good money for?
They've got a lot of players that are quite old.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. They were playing. They played against Napoli with Danilo and Alexandro playing in the back three. Still, like that's the kind of squad they've got. They could probably get money for Chiesa, but you'd never want to sell him. Vlahovic would probably be one of them, and McKennie. Then they have started to bring some young players through this season, and Allegri's given minutes to a lot of teenagers to try and kick the rest of the squad up the backside. But you're not going to get big fees for them, not yet anyway. They're not the kind of level that someone like Pedri or Gavi are at when they come through at that age. It's still very much a developmental phase. You're not going to sell Kostic or Di Maria for big fees or Pogba for big fees. And instead, you just keep investing and not really having a plan of what to do when that goes wrong. Because now they're going to miss European football as well. So their income for next year is even lower. I don't know what their plan is.
Well, it really makes you wonder whether financial fair play is, A, actually being monitored as closely as we think, and B, are there any other clubs going to be caught short from this? Because Man City kind of got away with it, didn't they? Chelsea, surely. I wonder what that's going to look like in a year or two's time.
Noni Madueke. How have they done that?
Another one, yeah.
For us to come in for him because we're desperate for a winger, and I thought 35 million, that's a steal. And Chelsea all of a sudden pop up, and I thought, how has that happened? How many wingers do they need?
I think Serie A is going to get more interesting the second half of the season in the light of what's happened, because Juventus at the top four picture looks tasty at the top of the league, doesn't it?
It's so tight between like second and sixth now. It's really, really tight. Napoli have got a decent little lead now. Roma are playing them, I think, this weekend, so that'll be interesting. But they've been really interesting to watch recently. Like, well, I say interesting, quite the opposite. They got the lowest XG against in all of Europe right now. So Mourinho's getting something right, but there seems to be a little bit of unrest building. I'm not going to lie. Zaniolo said he wants to leave and is not in the squad or training. Smalling apparently is talking to Juventus and Inter about a deal in the summer as well. There's still Rick Karsdorp's deal that looks a bizarre one that they're just desperate to sell him and can't get rid. But then you've got Paulo Dybala, who's just phenomenal. He's just been so good. 2 assists again at the weekend. I think he's the fastest player to have got 10 goal contributions for Roma since like 2004. So he's been brilliant. He's been so good.
Yeah, it's been impressive.